Hey, whether you've never played bar chords before or your bar chords always sound like this video will give you everything you need to master bar chords on the guitar. I'm going to give you a simple 2-step process on how to play perfect bar chords, common mistakes that you'll want to avoid, along with when you should use them. Step 1. Create the bar. This is by far the most difficult part of playing bar chords. One common mistake that you'll want to avoid is having your finger straight on the fretboard. When you're playing a bar chord, you're not pressing down on the fretboard, you're squeezing it. Think of it like you're pinching the fretboard. So your thumb should be on the back of the fretboard, squeezing it with your pointer finger. And your pointer finger is going to be slightly to the side. So it's going to be tilted towards the top of the guitar. So the top of the neck being up here, we're going to want to slightly tilt our finger that way. Another thing you're going to want to look out for is pressing down near the edge of the fret instead of the middle. That makes it a whole lot easier to get the right sound from the chord. Step number 2, making a chord shape. What you really want to recognize is that when you're playing a bar chord, you're really just taking the top of the neck of the guitar and bringing it down. So what you want to focus on is learning open chords first. And once you practice those, you can slide certain open chords down as bar chords. So the most simple of those being an E major chord or an E minor chord. Whenever you want to play a major, you go with the E major, and when you want to play a minor, you play the E minor chord. So when we're playing A major on the 5th fret, we're playing an E major chord, but we're sliding it down the neck of the guitar to play an A chord. And you'll need to use different fingers for the bar chord than for open chords. When you're playing an E major chord, you use these 3 fingers, but you can't do a bar chord if you don't have your index finger open, which means we need to include the pinky finger in what we're doing up here so that we can play with our index finger, creating that bar for the bar chord. Now, I actually don't recommend that you hit all of the notes. Don't worry about hitting every single note on your bar chord. When I press down on the guitar, I don't typically play every single note because I know that some of them are going to be a part of the chord. So when I'm playing this chord here, this A chord, I'm pressing down on these 3 notes right here. So because of that, I don't really need to play those chords with my bar. All I need to worry about is the top string and the bottom 2 strings. So that's what I'm usually focused on when I'm playing bar chords, playing the notes that I'm not playing by playing the chord shape already. And a common mistake is people will try to play bar chords when they don't know how to play the open chord version of the chord first. Learn how to play the E major chord up there first and the E minor, and then learn how to shift it down with a bar chord. Now that you know how to play bar chords, I'm going to tell you some situations in where you could use them. You should use bar chords when playing in awkward keys. By awkward keys, I mean keys where it's impossible to play in unless you play bar chords, or if you use a capo, of course. For example, if you were playing in the key of G sharp, you wouldn't be able to play a G sharp chord with an open chord. You would need to use a bar chord. You should use bar chords to get a different variation of a chord. For one, bar chords and open chords just sound different, but there are different emphasized notes depending on which kind of chord you play. You could play a C chord on an open chord and it would emphasize different notes than a C chord would if you're playing it with a bar chord. So for example, let's say I have a chord progression where I go from G to B minor 7 to C. If I was playing in that chord progression and I had a melody that has this note in it, if I want to follow that note and get the emphasis I want on it, I can't do the B minor 7 that's up on the guitar neck, the open chord, because that's not going to emphasize the note that I want. Because I want to emphasize this note in the melody, I'm instead going to choose the bar chord version of the chord because that's going to give me the emphasis that I want. Now I'm going to tell you some chord variations that you're going to want to play with bar chords. The most important being the different variations of E. You can play the E major chord, E minor, E7, and E minor 7. Those are the most important chords and the ones that I use the most often. You could also use variations of the A chord for bar chords, but I would recommend you stick with E as that's the easier one. So, to recap, don't have your finger straight when you're playing. Make sure to have that finger tilted. And when you're pressing down, make sure you're not focusing on pressing the strings, but instead squeezing it together with your thumb and your pointer finger. And then, make sure your index finger is against the fret when you're playing, not in the middle of the frets. Practice different variations of the E chord, and don't feel like you have to press down all of the notes when you're playing bar chords. One thing to note is that it's harder to play bar chords on some guitars rather than others. Steel strings have a harder string, so it's harder to press down on those, making it a little harder to play bar chords. You can play bar chords on whatever guitar you have. Just know that a nylon string is typically easier to play on, and if you have an acoustic nylon string or an electric string guitar, you want to practice bar chords on those guitars first before you go to your steel string guitar. But, like I said, you can also still play it on your steel string guitar. I hope this video helped. If you liked the video, feel free to like and to subscribe. And if there's anything else that you want to learn, make sure to let me know down in the comments below. And until next time, God bless.